Have you ever been in a conversation and, I don't know, felt subtly confused? Like maybe someone was deliberately making you doubt your own memories?
Hmm.
Or maybe you've seen someone just effortlessly charm their way into getting what they want, seemingly without caring about anyone else's feelings at all.
Yeah, those kinds of interactions can be really unsettling.
Exactly. So, what if there was a way to really understand these, often hidden forces in how people interact, not to use them obviously, but purely to protect yourself.
Well, that's precisely what we're aiming for in our deep dive today. We're looking to something called dark psychology.
Right.
And like you said, this isn't about judging people or telling anyone how to act. It's really about looking at the darker side of human behavior, shining a light on things like manipulation, control, coercion.
Okay. And we've dug into a really comprehensive source for this one, haven't we?
We have. It defines the field, traces its history, breaks down the core ideas, details a whole range of manipulative techniques.
And crucially for you listening, it gives practical strategies for self-protection.
That's the main goal here.
Yeah, our mission is to give you a kind of shortcut, a fast track to understanding these really complex dynamics so you can spot manipulation and, shield yourself from it in everyday life.
It's all about informed awareness,
Right.
empowerment, really.
Absolutely. So let's dig into this. It's fascinating stuff, maybe a bit unsettling, but definitely important.
Agreed.
So to start us off, when we say dark psychology, what exactly are we talking about? What's the definition?
Okay, so at its core, dark psychology is the academic study, really, of those, let's call them shadowy aspects of human behavior,
How do we, yes.
specifically the ones tied to manipulation, control, and coercion. And its primary purpose, it's important to stress, is understanding. It's about gaining knowledge for self-protection, not learning how to do these things.
Right, it's purely defensive knowledge. And this isn't some like new fad psychology concept, is it? It actually has roots.
Oh, absolutely. It has a real history. If you look back in the 1970s, there was pivotal work by Robert Hare on psychopathy.
Hair, right?
Developed the Hare psychopathy checklist.
Yeah.
And that was huge because it gave researchers a standard way to, measure and understand psychopathy scientifically. A massive step.
Okay.
Then, building on that foundation, in the 1990s, you had Delroy Paulus and Kevin Williams. They came up with the Dark Triad concept.
Yeah, the Dark Triad. We'll definitely get into that.
Yes. They brought together Machiavellianism, Narcissism, and psychopathy. And, our source also mentions even earlier thinkers like Freud looking at psychoanalysis, Jung at the unconscious.
Yeah.
They were grappling with these darker elements, too, in their own ways.
That's a great overview of the timeline. So given that history, how does dark psychology really differ from, say, general psychology, the kind most people think of? Seems like a key distinction.
It is. And what's fascinating, I think, is how their basic goals diverge.
Yeah.
General psychology, broadly speaking, wants to understand the whole human mind, improve mental health.
Mm-hmm.
Often it looks at human nature with a more positive lens.
Mm-hmm.
Dark psychology, though, it zooms right in on understanding these darker aspects, specifically for self-preservation,
Mm-hmm.
for protection.
Mm-hmm.
So it approaches human interaction with, let's say, a necessary dose of skepticism.
Okay, so general psychology might be about healing and growth, while dark psychology is more about spotting the potential threats and building defenses.
That's a good way to put it, exactly.
Yeah.
And then there's the scope. General psychology covers everything, development, memory, emotions, you name it.
It's huge.
Right. Dark psychology is much more focused, laser-focused, really, on the mechanics of manipulation, influence, control tactics. It's like looking at the whole human body versus studying one very specific complex system within it.
That distinction really helps frame it. Now, you mentioned the Dark Triad, and you said we'd get into it. This is where I think it gets really interesting, because these aren't always obvious, are they? They can show up in subtle ways.
That's very true. They often manifest subtly. The Dark Triad consists of 3 interconnected personality traits.
Yeah.
They're really foundational to understanding dark psychology.
Okay.
Machiavellianism, narcissism, and psychopathy. They often overlap, and getting a handle on them is key to recognizing manipulative behavior.
All right, let's break them down. Machiavellianism first. I'm guessing the name comes from Niccolo Machiavelli, the prince.
You nailed it. That's exactly the origin. It's a personality trait defined by a real focus on achieving personal gain, often through manipulation, deceit, just purely self-serving behavior.
Okay.
People high in Machiavellianism tend to prioritize practical results over, say, moral values. They show a kind of moral flexibility to get what they want.
So what are the key signs? Strategic, manipulative.
Yes, key characteristics include being highly manipulative, very strategic in their thinking, that moral flexibility we mentioned, and often a pretty suspicious nature towards others.
That sounds pretty calculated. Do you have an example of how that might look in real life?
Yeah, the source gives an example of someone, let's call her Anila, who manipulates and controls her partner. She might systematically isolate that partner from their friends, their family, creating dependency, and
Yeah.
showing basically zero concern for the partner's feelings. It's all about serving her own agenda.
Okay, that's chilling. Now, speaking of self-focus, that kind of leads into narcissism, right? I know the myth of Narcissus falling in love with his reflection. Is that connected?
Directly. Yep, that's where the name comes from. Narcissism is characterized by this excessive self-love, a really exaggerated sense of self-importance, and critically, a lack of empathy for others.
Mm-hmm.
Narcissistic individuals genuinely see themselves as special, unique. They're constantly craving praise and admiration from everyone.
So what are the telltale signs there beyond just wanting attention?
Well, they often have these grandiose fantasies, unlimited success, power, beauty, maybe finding this perfect, ideal love that only they deserve. They're also extremely sensitive to criticism.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they might react with intense anger or humiliation. And they can show a lot of emotional instability, like sudden mood swings, difficulty controlling their emotions.
So someone who needs to be the center of the universe and completely falls apart if someone points out a flaw.
That's a good picture.
Hmm.
Imagine, say, an actor who constantly demands praise, gets really upset if they don't get enough, looks down on their co-stars, and truly, deep down, only cares about their own success and image. That's a classic example.
Right, okay. And the third part of the triad, psychopathy. This one I think often causes the most alarm for people.
It understandably does. The word itself comes from Greek, meaning mental illness. Psychopathy is fundamentally defined by a profound lack of empathy, a total absence of guilt or remorse, and a consistent pattern of antisocial behavior.
No empathy, no guilt.
Exactly. Individuals high in psychopathy just don't connect with other people's pain or feelings. They feel no regret for their actions, no matter how much harm they cause.
So that chilling ability to hurt someone and feel nothing, that must make it impossible to appeal to their conscience or feelings.
You've hit on a key point there. Completely ineffective. Our source gives examples like someone called Vishal, who keeps borrowing money from his partner, lies constantly, deceives her, and feels zero guilt.
Wow.
Or another example, Anila, again, who might be socially very charming on the surface, but can inflict real harm without any remorse whatsoever. That lack of empathy and guilt, that's the absolute core. It makes them exceptionally difficult to reason with in any conventional emotional way.
It's important to note, though, right, that people showing these dark triad traits often share some common ground in how they operate, even if the root trait is slightly different.
Yes, definitely. There's overlap. They all tend to be intensely focused on self-interest. Yeah. They put a lot of effort into managing their reputation, how they appear to others. They often show a willingness to take risks.
Mm-hmm.
And they tend to have short-term, often superficial relationships. Genuine connection, that sustained give and take. That's really hard for them. Relationships often feel transactional.
That paints a really clear picture of the types of individuals we might be talking about. So now let's pull back the curtain a bit. How do they actually do it? What tactics are in the manipulator's toolkit?
While manipulators are often quite skilled at exploiting our deepest emotional vulnerabilities, they target powerful emotions. Fear is a big one.
Fear, how?
Like threatening someone to get them to comply.
Hmm?
If you don't do this, you'll regret it. Simple, but effective. Or they weaponize guilt.
Ah, guilt trips.
Exactly, making someone feel responsible for the manipulator's own problems or feelings. Maybe saying something like, after everything I've done for you, you can't do this one thing for me.
Ugh. So they play on our basic instincts, avoid pain, relieve guilt. What about the bigger picture? Are there sort of fundamental principles they follow?
Beyond targeting specific emotions, yeah, there are a few core strategies they often use. Consistently creating guilt is one, like we said. Using threats, direct or indirect, to coerce people.
Okay.
A really common one is controlling information. They might give you only selective details or spread misinformation just to shape how you see things. Like saying, don't trust them, they're the ones deceiving you.
Right, controlling the narrative.
Precisely. And finally, influencing behavior through rewards or punishments. The carrot and the stick. If you listen to me, I'll give you a gift, or the implied threat if you don't.
That covers the basic mechanics. Let's dive into some specific, well-known techniques. Gaslighting, that term, is everywhere now.
It is, and for good reason. It's a particularly nasty form of mental manipulation. The whole point is to make the target doubt, their own reality, their memory, their experiences.
And it comes from that old movie, right? Gaslight.
Exactly. The 1944 film where the husband tries to convince his wife she's going insane by manipulating the environment, like the gaslights dimming.
So how does it actually play out? What does it sound like in a conversation?
It's usually a pattern of specific actions.
Mhm.
Outright denial. I never said that. Withholding information. Look, I don't want to talk about this with you. Directly countering your memory.
Yep.
No, you're remembering it wrong. Shifting blame. Why do you always bring up old stuff? Trivializing your concerns. You're just overthinking it. Or pretending to forget. I don't recall promising that.
Wow. And the impact of that constant barrage.
It's devastating. It leads to deep confusion, anxiety, a huge drop in self-confidence, feeling helpless. Often, the target becomes completely dependent on the manipulator just to understand what's real.
That's just a slow dismantling of someone's sense of self. Chilling. What about emotional blackmail?
Emotional blackmail is more direct. It uses fear, guilt, or pity to force someone's hand. Examples: if you don't marry me, I'll kill myself. That's playing on fear.
Extreme.
Or, I've done so much for you and you can't even do this for me. Classic guilt. Or appealing to pity. I'm just so sad right now. You'll do this for me, won't you?
Right. And then there's love bombing, which ironically sounds so positive at first.
It does sound positive, and that's the danger. Love bombing is about overwhelming someone with just excessive, almost suffocating amounts of love, praise, attention, all designed to create dependency really fast.
How does that look? Just lots of gifts and compliments.
It can be. Like giving way too many gifts, saying, I just want to keep showering you with gifts, or demanding all their time immediately. I want to spend every single second with you.
Intense.
Very. And the weird impact is that it actually decreases the target's self-confidence over time because they get conditioned to rely only on the manipulator for any sense of validation or connection.
Okay. What about the silent treatment? That feels like a common tactic. Maybe less dramatic, but still controlling.
Oh, it's definitely a control tactic and very common. The manipulator deliberately avoids talking, ignores the target, basically using silence as punishment or control.
How does that show up, just
Yeah.
not talking?
It could be refusing to speak, yeah. Or actively ignoring someone's presence, creating physical distance, emotional distance, even isolating someone socially within the same house. You might hear something like, I'm not talking to you, I'll talk when you apologize.
Right. Using silence as a weapon.
Mm.
And finally, victim playing. This one seems so frustrating because it flips the script.
It really does. Victim playing is when the manipulator intentionally paints themselves as this helpless victim to get sympathy, make you feel guilty, and ultimately control you.
So they caused the problem, but suddenly you feel bad for them.
Exactly. The impact on the target is often pity, intense guilt, feeling like you've been tricked or deceived somehow. And again, that drop in self-confidence because you start blaming yourself for the victim's supposed suffering.
This whole toolkit really shows how varied these manipulation tactics can be. And like you said, they're often subtle, which raises that key question again. How do you spot these patterns in the moment?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? Especially with the subtle ones.
Yeah, exactly, because often they are incredibly subtle. Which I guess brings us to maybe a deeper level, how manipulators actually twist our sense of reality or use social dynamics against us.
Right. Well, typically they start by carefully building trust. They might seem incredibly loving, sympathetic, totally trustworthy at first.
Laying the groundwork.
Precisely. Once that trust is established, they begin to control the information you get. And that's how they start distorting your reality. One powerful way is projection.
Projection, like projecting their own stuff onto you.
Exactly. They take their own unacceptable thoughts, feelings, flaws, and attribute them directly to you or maybe to other people, essentially accusing you of what they are doing or thinking.
Got it. What else?
Another one is fabrication and false narratives. This is where they literally create false stories about things that happened, conversations you had.
Just make stuff up.
Yep. To confuse you, to make themselves look innocent, or specifically to make you feel guilty. They might change details, twist the story so they look good and you look bad. Maybe even bring other people into it to back up their fake story.
Wow.
And then there's selective information and omission. This is crucial. They give you only part of the story, carefully chosen bits, or they leave out critical details altogether. So they present a version of the truth that benefits them, which is effectively a lie because it's incomplete.
It's like building a whole reality out of half-truths and lies, just a web of deceit.
It really is.
So beyond messing with individual perception, How do they operate on a social level, within groups, families, workplaces?
Social manipulation is really about leveraging our natural human need to belong, our social instincts.
Mhm.
One tactic is social proof manipulation.
Social proof, like everyone else is doing it.
Exactly that. They try to make you believe that everyone else agrees with them or is doing a certain thing, even if it's totally false. Think about, like, fake online reviews trying to create buzz or false claims about how popular an idea is.
And the danger is you might go along with it against a better judgment.
Precisely. It can lead you to make decisions that aren't in your best interest at all, and then you feel regret later.
Okay. And the old classic, divide and conquer. I've heard that phrase in history, politics.
It's a timeless manipulation tactic because it works. They deliberately break up, a group could be a family, a team at work, into smaller, weaker factions. They sow conflict, create distrust between members.
Making the whole group easier to control.
Exactly. And another really damaging social tactic is social isolation. This is where they systematically cut you off from your support network, your friends, your family.
How do they manage that?
Several ways. They might constantly criticize your loved ones. They might create misunderstandings, maybe tell you, oh, your mother said she doesn't like you, even if she didn't. They demand all your time, control where you go, who you see, and often blame you for wanting to connect with others.
That sounds incredibly isolating and controlling. Very direct. What about peer pressure? Is that related?
Definitely related. Peer pressure is used to force you to conform to what the group is doing, often using the threat of rejection as the main weapon. You know, if you don't do this, we're not talking to you anymore. That kind of thing.
Right. So we've covered reality distortion, social tactics. What about things that seem to directly target the mind itself, like reprogramming thoughts?
Yes, these are the deeper mental manipulation techniques. One is what you could call mind programming. This involves instilling specific thoughts, beliefs, or behaviors through sheer repetition and suggestion.
Like repeating negative things.
Exactly. Hearing things over and over like, you're inadequate or you can't possibly live without me, starts to sink in. Then there's mental blocking.
Mental blocking.
Yeah, this is where they actively prevent you from expressing certain thoughts, feelings, or even memories, usually by invalidating them constantly. You shouldn't feel that way. That didn't happen.
Which must lead to just relying on them for everything.
That's the goal. Psychological dependency, making the target feel completely reliant on the manipulator for validation, for making decisions, even for their basic sense of self-worth.
Wow. And what about mirroring? You mentioned that earlier. It sounded a bit different.
Mirroring is interesting. It can be a neutral technique, even a positive one in rapport building. But manipulators use it deliberately. They consciously mimic your body language, your speech patterns, your gestures.
I think you feel connected.
Exactly. To
Mhm.
build rapport really fast, create this false sense of trust and understanding. So while it seems harmless, in their hands, it's a tool to make you feel understood while they're actually just analyzing you for weaknesses.
Okay, so when we put all this together, the traits, these manipulative tactics, the reality twisting, what does this all really mean for us, just living our lives day to day?
Well, it means that understanding these dynamics isn't just, interesting psychological trivia. It's actually a critical life skill. Being aware of how this stuff works is the absolute first, most fundamental step toward protecting yourself.
And fostering healthier relationships overall.
Absolutely. It all starts with awareness.
Which brings us perfectly to the most empowering part of this whole discussion, your shield. The strategies you can actually use for self-protection. So, how do we start empowering ourselves with this awareness?
Okay, first and foremost, education. Keep learning about dark psychology, about specific techniques like gaslighting, projection, love bombing. The more you understand how they work, the easier it is to spot them when they show up.
Knowledge is power, basically.
It really is.
Yeah.
Second, and this is huge, setting boundaries. You have to clearly define your personal limits and then enforce them. Learn to say no clearly, firmly, without feeling guilty.
That's often the hardest part, saying no.
It is, and be prepared because manipulators will test your boundaries. They might push back, even punish you for setting them. So you need to be ready for that and regularly check in with yourself. Are these boundaries still working? Do they need adjusting?
Okay, boundaries are crucial. What about strengthening our own inner resilience, our mental game?
Absolutely essential. You need to consciously work on trusting your own experience. Believe your feelings, your memories, your gut instincts. Actively push back against anyone trying to make you doubt yourself.
Don't let them gaslight you.
Exactly. Also, develop your emotional intelligence. That means self-awareness, knowing your own emotions, and self-regulation, managing those emotions effectively. Practice independent thinking. Make your own judgments, reach your own conclusions. Don't just passively accept what others tell you.
Right. Think for yourself.
And finally, maybe most importantly, self-care. Prioritize your own needs and desires. Make time for yourself. Practice self-love, self-acceptance. Forgive yourself for mistakes. And always, always ensure your physical and emotional safety.
That's a powerful internal toolkit. What about strengthening things on the outside? Our environment, our support systems?
Great question. A key external strategy is to verify information. Don't just take accusations or claims at face value. Pause. Check the facts independently if you can. Maybe keep a private journal of events, conversations, how things made you feel. If it feels necessary and safe, gather objective evidence, screenshots, recordings. And crucially, strengthen your support network.
Lean on trusted people.
Yes. Nurture those healthy, trusting relationships with friends, family. Talk to them. Share your concerns. Don't let yourself be isolated. And very importantly, if you feel you're caught up in a manipulative situation, seek professional help.
Like a therapist.
Exactly. A good psychotherapist or counselor can be invaluable. They can help you understand what's happening, validate your experience, and give you tools to counter the manipulation effectively.
And it seems like underlying all these strategies is the idea of cultivating genuinely healthy relationships as the best defense.
Right. Healthy relationships are the antidote. They're built on mutual trust. You trust them, they trust you, you're both trustworthy. They involve mutual respect, valuing each other, expecting respect in return. There's a sense of equality. It's a balanced partnership, not one person dominating. And there's independence, allowing and expecting autonomy within the relationship.
All things that are the complete opposite of manipulation.
Exactly. Those qualities just can't coexist with the control, dependency, and deceit that define manipulative dynamics. So if we tie this all together, connecting it to the bigger picture, this awareness, it's not just about spotting red flags to avoid harm. It's really about empowering ourselves to navigate the world with more discernment, more authenticity.
Yeah, this has been such an insightful deep dive. We've really unpacked dark psychology, defined it, looked at its history, shone a light on that dark triad.
Machiavellianism, narcissism, psychopathy.
Right, and then we really pulled back the curtain on the manipulator's toolkit, gaslighting, emotional blackmail, love bombing, isolation, even things like mind programming.
And the key takeaway, really, is that this knowledge isn't just theoretical. It's a practical tool. For self-protection, absolutely, but also for building healthier, more genuine connections in your own life and maybe helping others recognize them too.
Helping you see where real connection can actually grow. So, as you go about your life, armed with this deeper understanding, maybe just consider this. How will you use these insights, not just to shield yourself, but maybe also to actively spot and help create spaces where real trust, empathy, and mutual respect can actually flourish?
That's a great thought to end on.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into understanding dark psychology.